This is Neil Schneider for MTBS-TV at SIGGRAPH 2015. To my immediate right is Denise Quesnel. She is the VR Village co-chair for this year's conference. Welcome to the program, Denise.
Thanks, Neil, for having me on here.
Wonderful. So there's all kinds of exhibits here at SIGGRAPH, partly with emerging technologies, but also with a strong augmented reality and virtual reality focus. What are some of the highlights this year?
So VR Village is a brand new program to SIGGRAPH 2015. It was created by myself and my co-chair, Ed Lance. So me and Ed saw a great opportunity to include immersive realities within SIGGRAPH. A lot of people don't know that SIGGRAPH had virtual reality as part of its conference program as early as 1991, and it was there for a while, and then it kind of took a sidestep to some of the other technologies like visual effects, a little bit of a focus on that area, only to make a big resurgence in the past couple of years. So SIGGRAPH's mandate is to be all about computer graphics and interactive techniques. A lot of people don't know that part about the interactive techniques, so we're here to bring that focus back into the conference. VR Village contains several items this year. So we have a dome. It's called an immersion full dome. We've got art reels, scientific visualizations playing every day, all 5 days of the conference inside the dome. We also have special guests who are speaking inside the dome, and they're delivering things like a 360-degree PowerPoint presentation so that you can come and you can see how they made their film or their experience. And we also have this, which is directly behind me, the Nomadic Arena space. So Nomadic Arena is meant for people and experiences that are untethered. The ability to walk about in VR is probably the most exciting here at SIGGRAPH because nobody's ever really done this before this year. It's been extremely difficult to get the kind of image fidelity and the frame rate, low latency that we couldn't do prior to now. And it's something that we're really excited about bringing back for 2016. We also have 10 sit-down, stand-up immersion stations. So these allow you to experience a variety of games, films, different commercial experiences, also research. We've got academia here showing off projects. And we also have one of the most popular things, which is a VR crash test simulator where you get to go inside a car, experience a crash from 20 years ago. Then you get to experience a crash today, and it tells you a lot about how far we've gone with vehicle safety.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So what's going on behind here? So this is an example of that interaction you were talking about before. Can you elaborate a little bit as to how it works?
Absolutely. So the experience that you see behind me is part of Dr. Ken Perlin at NYU's lab. He brought 6 students with him, and they've come here to bring you Holojam. So Holojam is the ability to collaboratively draw a mural at 4 people at a time. So just one person with mocap and the Nomadic wireless is very difficult. He's done it with 4. So we spent a lot of time ironing out the little technical details of this particular program, and it's here for 1 day only. So we're trying to get as many people in here as possible. It's been a huge hit. They're drawing in space, and as the day goes on, they get to contribute to one another's drawings, and it starts to fade as time goes on to reveal new layers underneath.
It sounds like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Yes?
It is. This particular project is fascinating to me because it utilizes talents of such an amazing crafted people. So we've got programmers, people who know mocap, artists. We've got people who actually created the artwork for it. So a lot of computer graphics. Of course, Ken himself comes from a computer programming background. So he's bringing a very interesting take on the virtual reality experience by having a social collaboration where people actually are drawn towards one another instead of being isolated against one another, which is common right now in virtual reality.
Now I credited you as VR Village co-chair, but you have a university background or an academic background as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with Emily Carr University?
Absolutely. So Emily Carr University of Art and Design is located in Vancouver, British Columbia, and it's a very long-standing university with a focus, of course, on art and design, but we also, what's little known about us is we do a lot of high-tech work. So our work often accumulates in the virtual reality space, motion capture, stereoscopic 3D. I'm there as a researcher, so I do a lot of research with industry on projects that we can help with. Industry in particular, they just don't really have the space or facilities or often the time, since they're on a schedule and they have got deliverables, to experiment with different techniques and different approaches. So my specialty is in pipeline and workflow. I come from a post-production background where I got a reputation for doing extremely difficult projects and just fixing stuff as time went on. And that's kind of how I ended up in R&D, and apparently that's how a lot of people end up in R&D, so it's a familiar trajectory. I particularly love doing experimentation in what we're doing, experimenting with high frame rates in virtual reality and stereoscopic 3D, experimenting with this, which is the nomadic or the untethered experience, and just kind of having fun with it and introducing students to what we can do with this technology.
You know, you're very much correct in that. I think it could be joked that SIGGRAPH was the first VR meetup. I mean, you mentioned 1991. We're in this new era of VR. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement. In your opinion, why do you think it's going to be very successful this time around?
The tools are here. So we kind of were... Nobody in this space wanted to do things halfway in, and we knew in the 80s, right? Like everyone knew, all these pioneers who are here and part of SIGGRAPH knew in the 80s that in order to give people a tremendous virtual reality experience, we had to have things like low latency, high frame rates. Of course, capturing that is one problem, displaying it is a whole nother. It's only been the past few years that graphics cards and the CPUs and the ability to actually use a mobile device as a virtual reality experience has existed. So I think that the technology is driving a lot of the inspiration. As soon as people actually try something for themselves, they say, you know what, this could actually become augmented or virtual reality. And people are using their mobile devices and tablets every day in augmented reality, and they don't even know it. So people are saying, when do you think virtual reality is going to become mainstream? It kind of already has. And that's because the technology has been out there, and it's only going to continue to improve since there's so many people collectively working in this area.
And I should actually correct, when I asked the question, it made it sound like VR has been gone all this time. It actually has been very much around, like with virtual reality caves and so on. It's just that now we have that consumer opening and affordable solutions we didn't have access to before, yes?
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think that there's a misconception that VR is only for gaming and entertainment, and that's something that I've seen slowly start to change. And in talking to different people around SIGGRAPH, it's become very evident that they're here to see not just cutting edge, but to be inspired themselves. So practical VR is an area that was kind of the initial assessment of where virtual reality fit in the 70s and the 80s, and then entertainment and gaming kind of started to drive that. So where we are today is we've got a mix of medical VR, practical VR, we've got creative art VR, scientific VR, and they're all actually working together in this collaborative atmosphere.
So one more question for you. I mean, when I've been to SIGGRAPH, I've come to SIGGRAPH several years now, and I find that it tends to be cinema, video games, maybe artistry. Do you think that this immersive technology, virtual reality, augmented reality, are we looking at a completely new class of content within the SIGGRAPH world? Is it going to be handled as a separate entity, if you will, compared to what we've seen to date?
So we're talking about that right now. I'm on the 2016-2017 committees. So SIGGRAPH has a new vision of continuing virtual and augmented reality and actually giving it new opportunities to grow within our existing program. So we have the VR Village just as one program, but we also have the existing programs like technical papers, talks, panels, a computer animation festival, emerging technology, and also courses. And these are really ideal places to start to filter in some VR, AR content. One of the biggest challenges was getting people to the show this year, because there's so many shows out there that everybody wants to go to, and we just attracted them by saying we're focusing on content this year. We're not focusing on the hardware, the how to do it, or what tools that you would use in order to make VR. It's more about what are people actually doing right now and how can you do it too. So we're hoping that that energy drives 2016 and 2017 in an interesting way, so that courses, tech papers, all these other areas start to have virtual reality as part of their program.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
This is Neil Schneider for MTBS-TV at SIGGRAPH 2015. We will, of course, be back with more. Thank you for watching.